All right, guys, the time has come. These are the 6 products that here at Maker's Gonna Learn, we have officially blacklisted. If you're new here, my name is Alicia. We are here today to talk about some of the products that we love and some that we don't really love so much. So I've got all of them laid out here. If you see something that you recognize, be warned, these products have been blacklisted for us here at Maker's Gonna Learn for a variety of reasons, but I wanna go ahead and jump right into all of these products. All right, this first one to lots of people may sound like something that is a great idea, and maybe for some, this is great. This is just a product that we here at Maker's Gonna Learn have found we do not tend to run to or use very often, and that is the Cricut Bright Pad. So this pad right here is a Cricut Bright Pad. So what it does is it lights up. You can put your vinyl on top of it and then you can see to weed your vinyl. This is not something that we run to. Now, lots of people that are hard of vision or they can't really see where the cut lines are, they can totally use this, especially if you have a darker craft room. But this is just something, honestly, y'all, I pulled it out of what we like to call our Cricut graveyard. We just don't use it very much at all. They're kind of expensive. You all know Cricut brand is notorious for being pricey. And so it's just something we don't use. We bought it thinking, oh my gosh, how cool would that be to use? But y'all, we never ever reach for this. So if you've been on the fence about it, I would really only recommend this to people who really need help seeing those lines, or if you have just a very, very dark craft space. But honestly, you really don't need it. Next on our list is Smart Vinyl. Now, Smart Vinyl was made specifically for the machines that do matless cutting, meaning you don't use a mat to cut. We always use a mat to cut around here. I'm never feeding vinyl into my machine with the Smart Vinyl. Not only am I not doing that, but this is kind of expensive. It's not the greatest vinyl in my opinion. We love the Caesar Easy Weed for HTV or the Starcraft for our adhesive vinyl. So we just typically lean to those. The Smart Iron-On, I think they had good intentions with it. It's just not something that I'm gonna reach out for. I'm not gonna go purchase a bunch of Cricut vinyl. It's just not for me. If you've been crafting for any amount of time, especially here at Maker's Gonna Learn, you know that we don't really buy Cricut vinyl around here, and lots of people, it's not their favorite, but the Caesar and Starcraft brands do a superb job. We love them, and that's typically what we purchase. All right, next we have the Cricut Easy Press. Now this is the 11 by 8 or 12 by 8, I wanna say. This one's huge, okay? We have a giant clamshell heat press. We also have an HTV auto press. Those do the big jobs for us. And so having one of these on hand is not necessarily something that I'm going to get out because we've already got our heat presses out there in the studio. So this one also lives in our Cricut graveyard, which sounds awful. You know, we collect and accumulate lots of tools around here. So we're not using all of this stuff often. And so we tend to gravitate towards tools that are just easily accessible. And this one is just not one that we like to use. Now, I will say there is I want to say it's a 9 by 6 press. It's more for like a pocket tee or like a small decal. Those are really good. They're also considered Cricut Easy Presses, but y'all, honestly, the Cricut Mini Easy Press is our go-to. I keep the Cricut, I literally have one right here on our craft table. Like I keep it here at all times. I've got one on my studio desk. So we love to use the Cricut Mini Easy Press more often than not. And if we have a bigger project, we'll get the heat press out and just call it a day. So this is a good option. If you've got one, it works well. There's nothing wrong with how it works. It's just kind of big and it's really heavy. So if you are not wanting to lift something up all day long, if you're making t-shirts, that's not gonna be what you wanna use. So that's just our 2 cents. Next up on the list is our hat press. Now, when this first came out, we were so excited. We were like, oh my gosh, we've got to get the hat press. And you know, whenever products first come out, you think you got to get all of them. So we got this, and I will tell you right now, Lauren has used it once. I have used it once and that's it. And we've had it since it very first came out, which I think was maybe over a year ago or longer. So I do love how they have this set up. So it comes with like the little thing that goes inside of the hat, and then you would press with like, this is the actual iron. So it's very fitting if you were making lots of hats, but like we're making like 2 hats a year, maybe. So it's just not really conducive for us. And we can use a mini easy press if we really wanted to. I'm not sure what the price point is on this at this point, but it's just something that's extra and you can really get away with just using your mini easy press rather than investing a bunch of money into another press that you don't really need. All right, now these little guys over here, let's talk about them. So this is the Cricut Joy, and this is the Cricut Joy Xtra. So this is Cricut's newest machine that just came out last year. So we got this machine. It's amazing. It does 8.5 by 11. It does print and cut. Lots of cool features. It basically does everything that like a Maker or Explorer would do. It doesn't have the adaptive tools, so you can't do like the knife blade and things like that, but it does like all the basic stuff, and it's really small. It's like a miniature Maker or Explorer series. And then you have the Joy. The Joy came out a long time ago. These are both very low price points. I think you can get a Joy for like $99 at this point, but it doesn't have print and cut. It's very, very small, so you really can't do like a whole lot. It's better if you were just doing really small decals all the time or something simple like that. But we tend to lean more towards the Joy Xtra. So when it comes to Joy versus Joy Xtra, we're gonna blacklist the Joy and then pull out our Joy Xtra. So those are just a few little things that we like and dislike about those two machines. I really love the Cricut Joy Xtra. If I had it to do over and all these machines were available, this is what I would get for my home, just because it's so small and portable and you can literally craft wherever you want. All right, let's talk about the 6th item that we have blacklisted here at the Maker's Gonna Learn Studios, and that is the AutoPress. Now, some of you are probably like, why would you blacklist the AutoPress? It's amazing. While it is amazing, I'll agree with you, in some ways this machine is amazing. If you have ever used a clamshell or a swing away press, you will understand my dilemma. Now, I like this machine because I don't have to like put my full force into it to close it. It just does it on its own. But at the same time, I'm not able to manually increase the pressure on these machines, which makes it difficult for me whenever I'm pressing certain items. Sometimes you have to add in like another mat just to get that extra bit of pressure that you need depending on what you're making. And so that's kind of a big no for me. But I do love how sleek they are. They work really well. We haven't had any issues out of this one. Now we did try, I want to say it was the Vivor brand AutoPress. That was a hard no for us. It worked one time and then never worked again. But the HTV Raw AutoPress is really good and is at a really good price point. The Cricut AutoPress is a little pricey. I want to say it's probably $200 or $300 more than this one, but if you're looking for an AutoPress, if pulling down that lever is too much for you, the AutoPress is a good way to go. But if you want to be able to really manipulate your pressures and things like that, the clamshell or swing away is going to be your best bet. We typically use the StarCraft brand one from 143 Vinyl, and it's amazing. It is a little bit pricey. I want to say this one's probably around $300, and then our clamshell heat press is like $460 or something. They sell out all the time because they're so good. And y'all, we've been using the same one for the last, like, I don't know, 3 years. It's amazing. So if you're looking for a good one, I do recommend that clamshell one, and I will link it below for you guys so you can get one for yourself. All right, y'all, what did you think about this video? Are you surprised at some of the things that we put on our blacklist? I would love to know in the comments which Cricut tools that you all have purchased and put on your blacklist. Things that you're not using anymore, things that you bought and thought you would love, but you really did not. I really would love to hear it. Make sure to leave a comment below. And if you're interested, I've put a link in the description for you all to take a look at our membership. Here at Maker's Gonna Learn, we love to inform you all on the latest and greatest Cricut supplies and products, and we also love to inspire and teach you all everything you need to know about your Cricut machine. So make sure to check that link out below. Hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you're notified every time we post. And if you like this video,
let me guess, you have found yourself here watching this video because you want to learn everything there is to know about all of the different Cricut blades. Well, let me just go ahead and tell you that you are in the right place, because I'm going to give you the ultimate guide to all of your Cricut blades and explain what each and every one does or does not do. My name is Lauren, and I'm a craft producer here at Makers Gonna Learn, where we love to bring you inspiration, education, and motivation to not only get your Cricut out, but to learn everything there is to know and actually get value out of the investment that you have already made. If you are new to our channel, make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell notification so that you can get notified every time we get crafty. So let's go ahead and start talking about Cricut blades. First up on the list is going to be your fine point blade. Now, this blade is going to be one that you're going to use 90 to 95% of the time. It's going to cut the majority of materials that you are going to want to use with your Cricut. Now, let's go overhead and really dive deep into what the fine point blade is and how it works. Here is exactly what the fine point blade is. Now, to change out your fine point blade and for us to get a closer look, if you press the top right here, you can see that it retracts that blade. So this is a 45-degree angle blade, and this blade is going to cut, like I said, the majority of the material that you are going to want to use with your Cricut. It is an absolutely amazing blade. There's really not much else to say with it other than this is going to be your most used blade. Now, to change out, like I said, what you're gonna do, press down here on the top, it pulls that out. You're then going to take that, remove your blade, and then it's magnetic in there, so when you put it back in, you will hear a faint click, and then you'll just release and you're good to go. Now, the next two blades that I want to talk about are going to be your premium fine point blade and your bonded fabric blade. Now, these two blades are in a gold and a pink housing. Guys, I just want to be completely honest with you. These are pretty much glorified fine point blades. Now, the premium blade is going to be made of tungsten steel, so it may stay sharper longer. But other than that, this is just a premium fine point blade. Now, the fabric blade, bonded fabric blade, is literally just a fine point blade in a pink housing. That way you keep it separate from your regular blade. So I want you guys to think of the analogy, would you ever use your fabric scissors to cut paper? If you're a true crafter, you know that that is a cardinal sin. So this is just a 45-degree angle blade that stays in a pink housing to coordinate with the pink fabric mat. That way you can keep them separate so you can cut paper with your regular fine point blade, change that out as often. But with this means that you only cut bonded fabric with this blade, so it just stays sharper a little bit longer. Now, like I said, that's really the only difference. The premium blade, if you purchase it through Cricut, is going to be made out of tungsten steel. And like I said, this is just a 45-degree angle fine point blade in a pink housing, so you can keep them separate. Next up on the list is our deep point blade. Now, this one works just like our fine point blade with the top, the retractable blade that comes in and out. The difference between your deep point blade and your fine point blade is this blade is a 60-degree angle blade, meaning that it gets a deeper cut. Because it has a sharper angle blade, it's going to get a deeper cut. So if you purchase replacement blades, know that you do have to put the 60-degree angle blade in your deep point housing. That is what a deep point blade is for. This blade is specifically designed to cut thicker materials such as thicker cardstock, craft foam, magnetic sheets, and so many other things. So this is a great blade to keep in your arsenal. Now, one more thing, this retracts and goes in just like a regular fine point blade. So If you're getting technical, you really could put a 60-degree angle blade in your fine point housing. However, I don't suggest that, strictly because if you're anything like me, I forget a lot of times to change it back, like I get in a rush. So there's a good chance that you're gonna leave a deep point blade in a fine point housing and the angle is not enough for, I feel like, you to be able to tell by the naked eye. Sometimes you can, but it is harder to tell. So I would still suggest purchasing the black housing to keep your deep point blade in, just so you can keep them separate. The next blade that I want to talk about is not even really a blade, but more like an accessory tool that can be used in both Explorer Series and Maker Series machines, and it is called the foil transfer tool. Now, this tool does come with 3 different tips on it. Once again, it works just like your fine point blade with the push button at the top, and then it's magnetic on the inside, so you put in whichever foil transfer tip you want. Now, there is a difference between the 3, and I'm going to try to show you guys. I don't know if you can see it, but one of them has a singular line on it, meaning it's not as deep of a foil. Then you have a medium, which has 2 little lines on it, and then finally you have the deepest one, which has 3 lines on it. All of these are great to use the foil transfer sheets onto cardstock and other things. And like I said, this is one that can be used with both the Maker Series machine and the Explorer. Now, I want you guys to know that the 5 blades or tools that we just talked about are compatible with both the Explorer Series machine and the Maker Series machine. If you all were not aware, the Maker Series machine, the housing does have the ability to have adaptive tools. So there are a few more blades that are compatible with the Maker Series that are not compatible with the Explorer. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into all of those adaptive tools and explain to you when you can use those and with what materials, and talk about those that are specifically for the Maker Series machine. Here you can see we have all of the different adaptive tools laid out, but let's talk about the ones that we personally use the most. So first up is the knife blade. Now, out of all of the adaptive tools, I would say that we use the knife blade the most. This blade is kind of like having an X-Acto knife for your Cricut, and it can be used with a lot thicker material such as basswood, balsa wood, chipboard, and things like that. So we don't use it a whole lot, but we use it enough to justify having it in our office and for our Maker Series machine. So one other thing I want to make sure you guys know is we know that we have to calibrate for print and cut, but did you know that you also need to calibrate for your knife blade as well? So if you've never used a knife blade in your machine, I highly suggest a calibration on your knife blade before you start cutting, because if you cut with a knife blade, it's going to do multiple passes and it's going to take a while. So be aware, you do need to calibrate before you use it for the first time. The next most used adaptive tool here in our office is going to be the rotary blade. Now, the rotary blade is great for our friends who plan on cutting a lot of fabric. So if you are someone who likes to sew, quilt, things like that, if you have not gotten a machine, go ahead, get you a Maker Series machine, because you will be cutting fabric and this rotary blade is going to be a very, very important adaptive tool to have on hand. Another thing that is very good to note, okay, the knife blade specifically, let's put this down. The knife blade, you can purchase replacement blades and you can replace this, but I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. We never have. And honestly, when we were looking at the replacement blades, what we found were the replacement blades were still $23, and you could just buy a whole new blade and housing for like $24 or $25. So, like I said, you can replace this blade inside the knife blade. We have not. We haven't used it that much to have to. Plus, if and when we did, we would just go ahead and purchase the whole new housing and blade. So remember how I said that the rotary blade and the knife blade were stationary? These next adaptive tools that I'm going to be showing you are actually what they call a quick swap housing. So much like the fine point blade, there is a button on the top that you would press. So this housing is all together, but the tips are what are interchangeable. So you press the blade, and you can see when the blade is not being pressed, I cannot take that bottom part off. So you can press the top, take that bottom half off, and you have all of these different options for your quick swap housing. So starting out, and we'll actually go in order. I don't know if you guys can see, this one says number 1 on it right there. This is the single scoring wheel. Now, we don't use this a ton. If we want a really, really good score, the scoring wheel is great for that. Normally, we keep our scoring stylus in our machine just because we don't have to stop, change it out, put the fine point blade back in, all that stuff. So it is possible to still use the scoring stylus with your maker, but this is the actual adaptive tool if you want to get a super deep score. We do like using the scoring wheel if we want to get a really deep score. Now, like I said, this one is number 1, so let's swap that out, and we'll go to the next one, which, if you can see right there, says number 2. So that is going to be your double scoring wheel. So that's going to give you a double score. That will go on the quick swap housing like that. Y'all, I'm going to be honest, we don't use the double scoring wheel very often. It is good to have if you want to keep it on hand, but we don't use it very often. The next one that I want to talk to you guys about is going to be number 11, if you guys can see that right there on the end of that blade, number 11. This is going to be your perforation blade. So this is going to be great for those who are paper crafters, big time paper crafters. You can create a lot of things with perforated edges to tear off later. Lots of crafts you can do with this. We do so many other things. I'm not saying, we have used it before. It's not one that I pick up quite often, but it is a good one to have on hand. But this is just going to give you the option to have perforated edges so that you can tear things off of cards and stuff later on. So that's number 11, the perforation tip for your quick swap housing. Next up is number 21. See that right there on the end right here, number 21. This is the debossing tip. What this does is adds dimension to your craft project by creating a depression. So much like your foiling tip, you can use a foiling tip to get a similar effect as the debossing tool. If I was needing something with a depression, I would personally use the foiling tool anyway, because there's just not much of a raised tip to this. So I've always used the foiling tool anyway if I need like a depression in a project. Next up is number 31. You can see it right here. And this is the wavy blade. Now, what this does is it just cuts wavy lines in your cardstock. I have personally never used this blade. I'm sure it's a really cool blade. I have just never used it. I'm sure it gives a really nice, beautiful effect on the edges of your cardstock. But the last one, number 31, for the interchangeable quick swap housing is going to be 31, and that's the wavy blade. Now, last but certainly not least is tip number 41. You can see there, tip number 41, and that is the engraving tip. Y'all, this has a very sharp edge on it. Once again, this is with the quick swap housing. This is tip number 41. It is the engraving tip, and out of all of the quick swap housing ones, we have used the engraving tip the most. You can engrave on thin acrylic, you can engrave on leather. There's so many different things on metal. You can do so much with this engraving tip. If you don't have any of the tips for the quick swap housing and you are curious which one to purchase, I personally would go with the engraving tip. I feel like there are just so many possibilities with this tip for the quick swap housing. So What do you think? Those are all of the different blades that can be used in either an Explorer or a Maker Series machine. Once again, I want to reiterate that the last half of the blades that we talked about, which are the ones that are the adaptive tools, can only be used in a Maker Series machine. They are not compatible with an Explorer, but y'all, like I said earlier, 90 to 95% of what you are going to cut with your machine is going to be cut with the fine point blade and maybe even the deep point blade. All of the other stuff is just extra, and those projects are honestly few and far between. Now, I love having the ability to have those different tools at my fingertips if I need them, but if you're just in the market looking for a machine that's going to cut your standard vinyl, cardstock, HTV, things like that, you can't go wrong with an Explorer Series machine that has the fine point blade, deep point blade, and all of those others. Now, if you purchase replacement blades, I want to make sure you guys know and understand, especially the ones linked down below, which are our favorite. The ones that come with the red cap are going to be your 45-degree angle fine point blade. Those need to go in your fine point housing. Normally, if it has a blue cap on it, that's going to be a 60-degree angle deep point blade. That goes in your black housing. Now, you're going to find that some of the replacement blades also have blades that have a yellow tip on those. Those are actually going to be like extra fine point blades that have a 30-degree angle, so it's less than a fine point blade, and they are made to cut thinner material like tissue paper and things like that. Now, we've never used the 30-degree angle blade, but no, they are there at your fingertips. You can use them to cut thinner materials, but we don't ever really use them. Now, before I leave you guys, I want to do a quick troubleshooting if you're having issues with your blade cutting, some steps that you need to take to ensure you have the best cut possible every single time. The very first thing that you need to do is you need to check your blade and make sure there is no debris around your blade. You can even take it out, make sure there's no debris in your housing, and you can clean your blade. You do actually need to clean your blade, especially if you're cutting paper. A lot of times there will be fibers left in and around your blade that will hinder your cuts for other projects. So your first step is checking your blade to make sure that it is clean. The next thing that you need to do is make sure that it is down in the housing all the way. Sometimes what we do is we put it down in clamp B, and you can see there is space here between our clamp and the top of our housing. So you definitely need to make sure that that is all the way down in your housing, and then close your clamp. After doing both of those things, if you're still having issues, another thing you need to try is your pressure in design space. So you need to change it from default pressure to more if you're still having issues cutting. And then finally, if you've done all of those things I just talked about, you need to change your blade. Now, I get the question quite often, Lauren, when do I know when to change your blade? Well, my answer is going to be another question to you, and that is, how often do you use your machine? If you are like us and you use your machine every single day, that means you are going to have to change your blade very often, or a lot more often than someone else. Just like with a car, if you drive your car every single day, you're going to need to get the oil changed a lot faster than someone who drives it once a week. So, depending on how much you use your machine, that's going to determine how often you need to change your blade. So if you see that it is not cutting up to your standard, change the blades. Replacement blades are not that expensive, and it's a great way to ensure that you get nice, perfect, clean cuts every single time. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Once again, subscribe to our channel and hit that bell notification so that you can get notified when we get crafty. I also would love to see your comments down below. Tell me which blade that you use the most, or which one you think you would use rather than a fine point blade. I want to hear your answers. I'd love to hear feedback from you guys. So make sure you drop us a comment down below and tell us what is your favorite blade to use with your Cricut machine. Thanks for hanging out, and I hope that you all have learned everything you need to know about all of the Cricut blades.
Listen, my friends, I know you're ready to be making projects with your Cricut machine. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through everything you need to know to get started. I'm not going to make this a super long, drawn out beginner video because my goal for you in this very short training video, you feel super confident about the relationship between your technology, your machine, and the materials and tools required to be a successful beginner crafter. I'm gonna walk you through all the bare essentials so that you can start crafting and learning and actually having completed projects. I know many of you have bought a Cricut but kept it in the box, or you are even questioning if you should buy a machine. I am so excited that this video is put together so that I can share with you everything you need to know to get you from taking it out of the box, getting your software set up, knowing what material you need and the material you don't need to be a successful crafter. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Before we get started, I feel like it's really important that you understand the machine and how it truly works. So I have a Cricut Maker right here. I want to let you guys know, even if you have an Explore machine, this is very similar on no matter what machine it is. All right, so first things first, you have your power button. You can simply turn your machine on and it'll slowly move the wheels just a tad bit, and it's making sure there's no mat inside the machine. That is perfect. After you have the machine on, you're going to see three buttons. You have your load and unload button. You have your Cricut logo button, which you'll also hear people refer to it as the go button. They changed it from go to just the Cricut button. On newer machines, it'll look like a play button. That just means, hey, let's cut the project. And then next to it, you're going to find a pause button. Let's say your material gets stuck, anything like that happens where you're like, hey, I need to pause the machine, pause the cut. It has a pause button right on the machine. It's super good. Now, let's take a look closer to the blade housing. This is the blade housing right down here where you have clamp A and clamp B. Clamp A, you can open just like this, and you'll be able to take pins, markers, anything like that, simply pop it open, and they click right in place in clamp A. This is also where you put a scoring stylus and other adaptive tools, just like this one right here. You can simply open and shut, click in and click out. It's super, super simple. That is clamp A. Clamp B is where you're going to find your fine point blade. If you open it up right here, it's a little tighter, you'll see clamp B has opened. This is where you're going to put your fine point blade housing. This is where all of your Cricut Maker adaptive tools live, where you can use your rotary blade, your knife blade, your scoring wheel, and other adaptive tools like that. So, what you need to know about clamp B is that the only time you really need to change it out is if you're changing blades, or if you want to replace the fine point blade housing or change it to make sure it's clean. You'll find me looking at the blade quite often, making sure there's no debris on it. One thing that you need to know when you're a beginner crafter is that just like an oil change in your car, your blade needs to be changed as well. So I like to, if I'm not getting successful cuts, not just instantly blame the machine. I like to check the housing. I like to make sure there's no debris from paper, vinyl, anything like that hurting the blade, keeping it from not cutting at the best precision. And if it continues to, not cut properly, guess what? Just like an oil change, you can replace these blades. A fun tip, and I'll link it down below, some affordable replacement blades that I found on Amazon that we use in the office that work great. So once you clip this right back into place, this is the housing. What you'll also want to see is that there's a storage compartment right here. This is where I keep my extra blades, I keep some other housings, some other tools, and miscellaneous things that you'll want to keep with your machine at all times. As you can tell, the machine is very simplistic. They keep a USB charging port on the side if you want to charge your phone, iPad, things like that. There's a housing here where you can place a tablet, and you also have some storage here for markers, accessories, and things like that. But overall, the machine is really simple. Don't feel overwhelmed by the machine at all because you already know everything you need to get started right now. Now that we've talked a little bit about what the machine is, the buttons, all the quirks of the machine, this is the part where most people get tripped up, and it's the technology, it's the software. So first things first, if you're watching this video and you don't own a Cricut machine, guess what? You can start brushing up on your software skill even without a machine. It's so cool. So what you'll want to do is go to design.cricut.com, and I'm going to walk you through downloading the application to your computer. I'm doing it on a Mac today, but the process is very similar. If you're on a PC, the prompts will just look a little different. So come over to my share screen. I have my computer pulled up. This is what design.cricut.com looks like. It automatically detects I'm on a Mac computer. And now we can set up a new machine, we can browse projects, start designing, and more. So what we'll do is we first need to agree to the Cricut terms. So let's click I agree, and now let's select download. What it's going to do is allow us to have the prompts. So it is beginning to download. And then you will go to your folder, you will double click the file, and then you'll follow the on-screen prompts. So it's about downloaded. You can see it pops up right here if you're on Google Chrome. We will now double click, and it's letting us know that we just need to drag it from here to the folder. So let's hold it down and drag it over. It's now been moved. What we'll do now is we'll head over and launch the application. It's going to ask us if we for sure want to download it. You just want to click open. All right, now after you've been able to open the software, it's going to ask you to either set up a machine or sign in. So if you already have an account, you can select sign in. If you do not have an account, you'll want to follow the product setup. So whichever way you need to go, do that. And now let's go ahead and take a look at Design Space. Now, before we dive in to Design Space, I want to have a clear conversation on if Design Space is free or not. And the answer is it is free. Using this software allows you to actually take advantage of the value of the machine. Meaning, if you did not have this software, you could not cut. Therefore, Cricut is not allowed to charge you for the software. All right, so what you may be thinking that they're charging for is not Design Space. It is actually to a very large library of files called Cricut Access, giving you access to files. That is what you're subscribing to when you're an Access member, not the true functionality of Design Space. There are 2 or 3 exclusive features to Access members, but the free version of Design Space gives you plenty to use to really take full advantage. People constantly ask us that because when you become a Makers Gonna Learn member, you really see that you're using so many of our files that it doesn't make sense for most of our clients to continue with Cricut Access. So that's something totally up to you. If you love Cricut material and things like that, they give you a 10% discount. So sometimes that can pay for your fee at Cricut Access and things like that. So keep that in mind. You don't have to subscribe to Cricut Access to take full advantage of the software I'm sharing with you right now. So after you sign in, this is the home page. This is Discover. Think about this as like the homepage of Netflix. You can see a lot of files, a lot of projects, a lot of inspiration. As you Cricut more and more, you will not need this area at all because you'll have so many ideas from YouTube videos, Pinterest, Instagram, things like that. You won't even find yourself here a lot, okay? I do want to direct your attention over to what they call My Stuff. My Stuff is where all of your projects will be. So as you can see, I've been using Cricut for well over a decade. I probably have thousands of projects. It's kind of crazy. So this is where they're stored, okay? So you can access your files, you can access your folders, things like that. But after you see where your projects are housed, I want to give you a very brief overview of the canvas. So let's hop over to where it's labeled Canvas. So this is where the magic happens. This is where design comes to life. This is where you can upload files. This is where you can work with fonts. This is where you have your layers panel, all different skills that you'll be learning to really get the most out of your machine, okay? So first things first, the left-hand sidebar, you have templates. You probably won't use that a lot. You have projects. That's available if you are an Access member. You have shapes. You can open up shapes and you can see there are a ton of free shapes. There are some bonus Access shapes that you have available, but if you're a Makers Gonna Learn member, we have comparable ones just like this, so you don't have to be an Access member to access those, so that's super cool. You can see there's images very similar to projects. You can open up a new text box and work with Makers Gonna Learn fonts and different fonts that you find all across the internet. You'll see that you have a lot of different options, from changing the font to changing the style. One newer feature with Cricut is that you can move this font box around. So if you lose your text box, you can just simply move this option over, and you'll see that you now have your text box and your font choosing all in one place, which is very nice. You can change the font size. As you get more advanced, you can learn about letter spacing and line spacing, but it's not even necessary right now. Under text, you also have phrases. This is kind of like a monogram maker, things like that. There's all sorts of editable text and things like that. There's some templates. Again, this is more for Access members. You have editable images, which will allow you to edit designs. I find myself staying in the upload area a lot because this is where I'm uploading my files. This is where I am seeing what I've uploaded. And it's really easy to upload files from Makers Gonna Learn, so we'll talk about that. And then you have the actual monogram maker. So that is here as well. The monogram maker is a Cricut Access feature as well, so just be mindful of that. So if you're not a Cricut Access member, the things you'll want to stay really familiar with is basic shapes, the uploads area, and the text area. Those are three that I am constantly using on our YouTube channel, and you'll want to get really familiar with those first. All right, we're at makersgonnalearn.com, and we're just going to pick one file to work with today. And I kind of want to walk you through the differences between SVG and PNG. So when you find a file you like from our website, and if you're not a member, you can join for $1 right down below, take a free 7-day trial for only $1. So you'll click download, and inside the file, it will have a PNG and it'll have an SVG. PNGs are great if it is a picture that you are turning into a sticker, like an image with a lot of design, very complicated, multi-layer, right? That is multi-colors, and you just want to simply print it out. That is what we use PNG for. SVG is a scalable vector graphic. That means it could look really high quality as a sticker on my computer, and you could scale that up to be a billboard and the quality stays the same. That is not similar to a JPEG or a PNG. I think most of us, when we get a Cricut, we're very familiar with our photos being JPEG. But when you are switching to software design, Cricut, things like that, you're going to want to work in PNG or SVG. All right, that is what you are going to be most commonly working with. So similar to how you downloaded Cricut Design Space, you have now downloaded another zip file with your file right here. So you'll want to go to recent downloads. You'll want to click on that zip file. Let's go open it up, and then you double click. You can see it now has the SVG and it has the PNG in one folder. We are going to now upload that SVG to Cricut. When you get familiar with this process, you'll be able to download cut files within 15 to 20 seconds from downloading it from the web to uploading it to Design Space. So let's go back over to Cricut Design Space, and what we're going to do is we are going to go to the upload area. Click on upload, click on upload image, and then guess what? We get to drag and drop that SVG file. So you'll take it and drop it. Now it says the file is right here. It looks good. We can press continue. If you want to change the name of the file, now is the opportunity, and then you'll click upload. One thing I love about SVGs is that it organizes all of the colors for you. So now you'll see that the two different colors is automatically set up to where you can cut it on different color vinyl at no additional work for you. I highly recommend, as a Cricut crafter, to get comfortable working with SVGs where they already have your layers set up. It's very, very important. The next thing you'd want to do with your file is you would measure where you're placing it onto a design. So if I was making this for a shirt, I would measure the shirt twice, and then I would cut it once. So what I mean by that is you'll want to measure your project once or twice to make sure you know how much space you truly have. All right. Once you have that size, you will want to go ahead and size it on Design Space. Now, if you're a Makers Gallery member, we have an amazing resource that can tell you some of the best sizes your designs can be for t-shirts from onesies all the way up to adult size shirts. That is found in the resource library of Makers Gonna Learn, okay? So after you have that size, you will simply size it on Cricut. So let's say that we have measured our shirt and we're like, we have, 5 inches of width, right? So we can go ahead and simply type in up in the sizing 5.0, and when we press enter, it will automatically resize the height. As you can see, it resized the height to 2.8. It's very important to understand when you have it automatically resize that you see the lockbox is on right here. You can always turn it off by unlocking the lockbox by clicking the unlock, and then you will automatically have to yourself type in the width and the height. It will not automatically do that, okay? It's very important that if you unselect the lock, when it's unlocked, you are now able to scale it unproportionally, do whatever you want for the width and the height. When you want it to scale proportionally, be sure to leave that locked. Now you'll be able to press Make It and follow the instructions on selecting your material, connecting to your machine, and everything like that to make your first cut. It's very, very simple, and now we can talk about the material and the tools required to make a project come to life. It can be really overwhelming to know what tools you need and what tools you don't need. So in today's part of the video, I want to go over all the tools that could be helpful to you, but if you only can get one tool, all you need is a solid weeding tool. This right here looks like some dental tool, right? This is a weeding tool. This is very, very important to the success of your crafting journey, all right? I wanna make sure that you have one of these to be successful. This is a bare essential, but there are more tools that you could use to have even better success crafting, all right? Like a brayer. A brayer can be very helpful when making sure your paper, vinyl, things like that stick down to the mat. You'll obviously need a really solid pair of scissors, We have a True Control knife. This is a tool from Cricut that I am obsessed with. This True Control knife is truly the best X-Acto knife you'll ever use. I use it to cut my vinyl after making a cut on the mat. So I make sure to save all the material possible every single time, which will then save me a lot of money in wasted material. Next up is a pin tool. This is from 143 Vinyl, and this right here is kind of like the weeding tool's sister or brother. This is a more precise, precision weeding tool for things that you're cutting out that are really intricate, really small. It's very important that if the weeding tool is not giving you success with small, intricate weeding projects, that you grab a pin tool. They have a lifetime warranty, so if ever it breaks, you can email them and get a new one, no questions asked, which is super helpful. You can have a pair of tweezers, whether it's regular tweezers. I really appreciate reverse tweezers. They're very helpful to me, especially working with paper. Of course, you have the weeding tool we talked about earlier. A scoring stylus that goes in clamp A is my favorite scoring tool to make 3D projects, to make handmade cards, things like that. And of course, an assortment of pins or markers so the Cricut can draw for you. The ones I recommend the most are black, gray, and then any other color that you would like to draw on. I love having a fun color available so that I can draw my addresses on envelopes. So if you want to add an element to your Christmas cards this year, considering having the Cricut, go ahead and write all of the names and addresses on your Christmas cards. It'll give another amazing handmade look. Next up, let's talk blades. Now, when you purchase a Cricut, whether it's an Explorer or the Maker, you'll get that fine point blade. In addition to that, if you have a Cricut Maker, you can grab some other really fun blades. There are different ones if you're cutting bonded fabric, if you want a deep cut fine point blade, things like that are available. They can come in pink, they can come in gold if you're getting a really solid cut. They also have the deep cut blade that comes in black. So you'll see there's a few different options when it comes to fine point blades, but those aren't really necessary if you have a regular fine point blade, which comes with your machine. So let's talk adaptive tools. Number one, the one I recommend most people that have a Cricut Maker receive and purchase is a rotary blade. The rotary blade is going to be very helpful in making sure that you get an amazing cut on material like burlap, denim, canvas. This blade right here can cut 400 different materials. It's solid. If you have a Cricut Maker, it's worth investing another $30 to $40 in getting a rotary blade. Next up, you can take a look at the scoring wheel. There's different add-ons like a perforation blade and different things like that you can do more elaborate projects with. You can also take a look at picking up a knife blade if you want to cut balsa wood or basswood, and so much more. It's really awesome at all the adaptive tools that Cricut offers, but these are some of the most important ones to be aware of that you could get if you have a Cricut Maker. Next up, let's talk about Cricut mats. Since we're just talking about beginner mats, what I want to talk about is a light grip and a standard grip mat. If you're just getting started, these are the only mats that you need. Yes, are there fabric grip mats? Are there heavy duty mats? Totally. But as a beginner, you only need the blue and the green mat to get started. I like to do paper on my blue and everything else on the green. It's very important you don't feel like you have to have every single mat. It's just important to have at least a green mat. If you can only have one mat, the standard grip will allow you to cut almost everything on it, but I just love the way the light grip mats feel working with cardstock, paper, more delicate items. I love a light grip mat. I actually go for the light grip mat a lot more than I do even a standard grip mat. In the description down below, I will link you some of the affordable non-Cricut brand mats that we use that we really enjoy as well. If you need to cut larger items, they also created a 12 by 24 inch mat that is a little bit more expensive, but that is available depending on what you're working on. All right, let's talk about vinyl material. There's two sorts of vinyls that you're going to use the most. That is adhesive backed vinyl, and then you also have heat transfer vinyl. This is very important to know the difference. The way I like to keep up with it is that adhesive backed vinyl is going to have a paper backing. Usually looks something like this. And then with heat transfer vinyl, you are going to see that it has pretty much a dull side and a super shiny side. This is the way that you know you're working with heat transfer vinyl. Why it has a super shiny side is that it has built-in transfer tape. If you're new to crafting and you can see a price discrepancy between heat transfer vinyl and regular adhesive back vinyl, the way I justify it is by saying, hey, I don't have to pay transfer tape because it has it built in for heat transfer. But when it comes to adhesive transfer, you do have to invest in transfer tape. This right here is such great stuff to have. We'll link some of our favorite transfer tapes down below. This one's from Caesar. I love the Cricut brand transfer tape as well, but to work with any sort of vinyl, you'll need a really solid transfer tape to go with it. Now, one thing to note about HTV or regular vinyl is that as a beginner, you'll find yourself wanting to get every single color possible. Here's the thing, you do not need it. Stick with neutral colors and then get any other colors outside of neutrals one time as needed per project, because vinyl has a shelf life. We find that vinyl only lasts at its best quality for about a year to a year and a half after purchase. Depending on where you live, the humidity levels, things like that, it can actually make vinyl not cut as well, not stick as well, and things like that. Another type of material that I am really a big fan of is printable sticker paper, printable vinyl, being able to get printable magnet sheets. There's so many different sorts. Some of our favorite is the actual brand new Cricut brand sticker paper, as well as Zakoto. That is a brand found on Amazon, and we'll link it down below. But you can also do water slide. You can also do magnetic sheets. I mean, the possibilities are truly endless when you start thinking about pairing your printer with your Cricut machine. The Cricut's fantastic at making stickers, decals, car magnets, and so much more. It's really, really awesome, okay? So be sure to check out those because this will help you level up your Cricut game without taking any work at all. Now, when you're talking about heat transfer vinyl, you need a heating element to be able to make sure that it adheres to your shirt, your fabric, things like that, right? When you start looking at heating sources, it gets confusing. You can literally go from spending $40 to $400 really easily. So let me help you and say you only need to spend roughly $40 and grab a Cricut Mini Easy Press. This right here, I have all the heating elements, and this one's my favorite. This one is the best one. Y'all, get started with the Cricut Mini Easy Press. If you're a hobby crafter, this can fit very compact. I use this pretty much every single day when I'm making heat transfer vinyl projects. Even though I have a $400 heat press, this one's still my favorite. So let me tell you, before you spend hundreds of dollars, try out the Cricut Mini Easy Press. You will not go back. It's the best heating source ever, no matter the size of project. After you use it once, you'll totally understand what I'm saying. So save the money and get the Cricut Mini Easy Press. Next up is cardstock. Being able to cut really awesome cardstock with your Cricut is important. We use a company called Celebration Warehouse that has cardstock that cuts like butter. Whether you're wanting shed-proof glitter, whether you're wanting regular old colored cardstock, they have a great selection, and all their paper works perfectly in partnership with die cutting machines just like the Cricut's. Next up, if you bought a Cricut machine, I don't know about you, but as soon as I bought a Cricut, I found myself at the dollar spot of Target, going to Dollar Tree, finding all the blanks possible, and I highly encourage you to use affordable blanks to do test projects. Get comfortable applying vinyl onto wooden blanks that you find at the dollar spot at Target, Walmart, Dollar Tree. And as you build your skill, as you get more reps into your projects, then you can feel comfortable getting more expensive blanks, going for, recreating decor at Hobby Lobby and things like that with your Cricut machine. I like to have some shirts in my stock at my house because I'm ready to go and make a shirt no matter what, as well as signs and things like that for any time creativity may strike. These are some of my supplies that I love to go to time and time again. When you're thinking about what you can do with your Cricut, I want to remind you, the Cricut can draw for you. The Cricut can cut cardstock, meaning it can build 3D projects. You can make t-shirts. You can go through and make really awesome heat transfer vinyl shirts. You can also do hoodies. There's so many different things you can do when it comes to heat transfer vinyl. You can also make signs. You can also make stencils. One of my favorite projects out there that's a little more advanced, but something you can level up to really quickly, is being able to make a custom doormat. For some reason, when you merge Flex Seal, your Cricut to make a stencil, and a doormat, you can make an elaborate looking doormat really, really easily. The possibilities with this Cricut machine is truly endless. You get to do the design work in Cricut Design Space, and then the machine does the rest. It's super awesome, and we love helping you get a lot of inspiration. So what I want to do is invite you to take our $1 trial. When you sign up for $1, you're going to get access to my full 30 days of Mastering Your Cricut Challenge, where we take all of this and break it down day by day, training by training. It's on demand. You can watch as fast or as slow as you want, where we give you in-depth training every single day of that challenge. And we give you 20 download credits to our website, Makers Gonna Learn. So be sure to sign up at the first link down below. If you're looking to get started making a project today, I want to invite you to make something as simple as a vinyl decal, make a t-shirt, or simply a decal for a mug. Those are some really awesome beginner projects. And again, you may be thinking, Tanner, this is awesome. I can make and sell stickers. I can make and sell shirts. The answer to that is yes, my friend, you totally can do that. Build up your skill, start posting what you're making, and let the possibilities happen. What I mean by that is you have no idea what can happen when you put yourself out there. It's one of my favorite things to teach, and I love seeing people start making money and paying themselves back for their machine. Before you know it, you will actually be profiting money after you get your startup cost covered, all right? Now, if you want to learn more about that, I put together a free download right down below with 200 ideas all about things that you can do with your creativity to turn it into profit. I cannot wait for you to check that out as well, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave me a comment down below, hit the subscribe button, let me know what your favorite aha moment of today's training was, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. If you're ready to